HR told me I couldn't use my sick days for mental health because headaches don't count if you're not bleeding. So I came in with sunglasses, a bucket, and a doctor's note that said, "Do not speak, just nod," and set up a cot next to the printer. By lunch, the entire marketing team had claimed burnout too. I worked for a mid-sized marketing agency in Des Moines, Iowa. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. I had a corner desk next to the printers on the third floor, right across from the glass office that belonged to our HR manager, Vanessa. Vanessa was one of those "we're a family here" types who'd cut your throat in a heartbeat if it saved the company $12 on a fruit platter. I'd been there almost 6 years. I was always on time, worked late, took projects home. But sometime around year 4, things started to break in me. The job wasn't just exhausting, it was constant. Weekend emails, late-night emergencies, last-minute changes. I began having daily migraines, real ones. Nausea, dizziness, light sensitivity. It got to the point where I'd throw up in the stall, splash water on my face, and go back to my desk like nothing happened. One day, I finally decided to use one of my 5 paid sick days. I emailed Vanessa and my manager and said I needed a day for my migraines, that I physically couldn't look at a screen. Vanessa called me an hour later. Headaches don't qualify for sick leave unless you're bleeding, vomiting, or hospitalized. You're not in the ER, right? I didn't even know how to respond. I told her I was vomiting. She said, "Well, that's subjective." Subjective. Vomiting was subjective now. I went to my doctor that week. Explained everything. My doctor, God bless her, handed me a printed note that read, "Patient requires rest due to chronic migraines. Avoid light, sound, and communication. Must not be disturbed. No verbal interaction. Respond with head gestures only." I smiled. That Sunday, I packed a few items: blackout sunglasses, a collapsible cot from my garage, a puke bucket, an old neck brace from a car accident years ago, and my doctor's note. I also printed out HR's own "mental health doesn't count unless you're bleeding" memo that they had emailed company-wide a year prior. I'd saved it in my personal folder, just in case. Monday, 8:07 a.m. I walked in wearing the sunglasses and neck brace, dragging the cot and bucket. Vanessa's face as I limped past her office was priceless. I didn't say a word. I laid the cot out right next to the printer, which buzzed nonstop, curled under a blanket, and put the bucket beside me. I taped the doctor's note to the printer and laid still. 10 minutes later, Vanessa stormed over. What is this?" she whispered, trying to keep her voice down. I slowly raised my hand and pointed to the doctor's note. You can't work like this." I nodded. Slowly. "This is disruptive." I pointed at the memo she'd sent last year and held it in the air without looking at her. "You're abusing policy," she said. I gave her a thumbs up. She stomped away. By 10:30 a.m., word had spread. People came by pretending to print documents just to get a look. Some whispered to me. I didn't reply. I just nodded or shook my head. At 11 a.m., the copywriter across from me, Tom, asked me quietly, "Are you okay?" I gave him a slow thumbs up, followed by a thumbs down. "Do you need help?" I pointed at the doctor's note again. By lunchtime, 5 people had walked into Vanessa's office and walked out red-faced. One of them was crying. At 1 p.m., my manager, Rebecca, pulled me aside. Well, she tried to. I just laid there. She crouched beside me like a nurse checking on a dying patient. "Listen, I'm getting pressure to move you. You can't stay here like this. You're not being productive." I reached into my purse and pulled out a notebook where I had already written in Sharpa, "Working per doctor's note. If further documentation is required, contact Dr. Elman directly." I handed it to her. She blinked, then left. By 3 p.m., 4 people from marketing had sent in sick day requests, all citing mental fatigue, burnout, or acute stress migraines. 2 of them used my doctor's name. One went home crying. At 4:15 p.m., the CEO walked through. He paused, looked down at me, and whispered to Rebecca, who nodded helplessly. I heard the words PR risk and optics. Vanessa didn't show her face the rest of the day. I stayed until exactly 5 p.m. and came back the next day with a second pair of blackout glasses, a foam neck pillow, and earplugs. This time, the printer was quiet. People tiptoed around me. HR sent a memo that afternoon. Effective immediately, employees may use sick days for any personal health-related issue, including mental health. I printed that memo and taped it above my cot, and laid back down. No one dared move me. Not even Vanessa. By the end of the week, I wasn't the only one using a cot. Tom, the copywriter, showed up Friday with a weighted blanket and noise-canceling headphones. He told Vanessa he had burnout-induced vertigo and needed to recline every hour. She looked like she was going to faint when he unfolded a yoga mat beside his desk. Then Sarah from accounting showed up with dark under-eye patches and a silk sleep mask, claiming light-triggered anxiety. She brought a humidifier that made a soft humming noise and ran it all day. Her workstation smelled like eucalyptus. It spread fast. By the next Monday, we were 5 deep. Me, Tom, Sarah, Jasmine from graphics. She showed up with a medical mask and a doctor's note that said, "No eye contact for 48 hours. And Rob from IT, who wheeled in a full ergonomic lounge chair and said, "If HR wants me conscious, they'll pay for therapy." Every day, more people cracked. They weren't faking. Not really. They were just finally letting the stress show. Everyone had been hanging on by a thread, and the second I made it visible, the bucket, the sunglasses, the cot, it gave everyone else permission to stop pretending. Vanessa was losing control. But she didn't go down easy. The next week, she started calling us into wellness meetings. Private, off-the-record conversations where she'd smile like a shark and offer suggestions to improve our behavior. Mine was Thursday. She booked a tiny conference room on the 2nd floor. Just me, her, and her folder. I walked in slow, in full getup, sunglasses, neck brace, puke bucket. I even wore a scarf to make my skin look pale. She closed the door and didn't speak for 10 seconds. Then she smiled, big and fake. "So, you're feeling unwell." I nodded once. You know, this has created quite a stir in the office. Upper management's watching. I stared at the wall. Let me be honest. You're making a scene. And while your note technically allows for your behavior, this isn't in the spirit of company culture. I tapped my fingers slowly, then held up my doctor's note again. She leaned in. "You're gunning for a lawsuit, aren't you?" I didn't move. "Listen," she said. "You've made your point. HR's updated the policy. Take the win. But you need to stop now." Still silent. "If you don't, I will start documenting behavior that can be categorized as insubordination." That got my attention. I finally looked at her. She sat back. I reached into my bag and pulled out the printed email chain from 2 years ago, when Vanessa had denied a co-worker bereavement leave because pets don't count as family. That co-worker, a sweet girl named Olivia, had broken down crying in the office after losing her dog of 13 years. I slid it across the table. "Where did you get this?" Still silent. "You saved this?" "For what?" She looked nervous. I pulled out a second printout. A Slack message Vanessa sent to a manager calling an intern mentally fragile after the kid took a mental health day during finals week. Now her face turned red. "Are you threatening me?" I shook my head, then pointed at the documents, then pointed at her, then gave a big, slow thumbs up. She ended the meeting. I walked out. Next morning, Vanessa wasn't in her office. Word was she had taken emergency medical leave. 3 days later, the company held a mandatory all-staff Zoom meeting. A VP from corporate, someone we'd never seen, came on camera. Effective immediately, our company is launching a mental health audit. We take employee well-being very seriously. If you feel you've been mistreated, you may file confidential complaints through our new third-party provider. And just like that, it wasn't just about me anymore. People started digging. Tom found an old email where Vanessa denied an ADA accommodation request. Sarah had screenshots of her mocking an employee's PTSD in a Teams chat. Jasmine had been denied time off for a panic attack during a fire drill. It all came out. And while HR scrambled to control the leak, something else happened. Upper management started watching me. They couldn't fire me, not without blowback. But they made things weird. My workload tripled. Deadlines got tighter. The printer next to my cot suddenly jammed 3 times a day. They accidentally deleted a folder with months of my client work. They didn't say anything out loud, but the message was clear. They wanted me gone. But I wasn't going anywhere. Because I'd started keeping records too. By now, I had a whole binder. I wasn't playing around. I printed every email they sent me. Every changed deadline. Every accidental deletion. I kept screenshots, time-stamped task lists, Slack messages with missing info, calendar changes, even copies of printer error logs. I had USB backups of everything. I also kept a daily log in a notebook. Time I arrived, what I worked on, who gave me what assignment, when they changed it, how long it took, what got lost. I kept every small dig, every roadblock, every delay. They thought they were clever. They thought I was still sick and weak. I wasn't sick anymore. I was building a case. Then they made a mistake. A big one. My manager, Rebecca, called me in for a performance review that wasn't scheduled. She said it was urgent. I had a feeling something was off, so I asked if we could have it over Zoom, said I was still under limited stimulus guidelines. She agreed. I hit record the second the meeting started. She didn't know. The first 5 minutes were normal, work output, metrics, deadlines. But then she started in on the tone. We've noticed some negativity from you lately. You've become difficult to manage. You're making others uncomfortable with your behavior. Then she said this. I need to be clear. This job requires more than just showing up and playing the sick card. We can't carry dead weight. Dead weight. I stared straight at the camera and didn't say a word. Just took a slow breath and wrote a note down in front of her on camera. Then she smiled and said, Between us, if you're so mentally unwell, maybe this isn't the right place for you anymore. I ended the meeting, uploaded the recording to 2 drives, printed a transcript, added it to the binder. 2 days later, I had a conversation with someone new, a lawyer. One of my former coworkers, Olivia, the one who lost her dog, reached out. She had quit the company a year ago but still followed the news from the inside. She told me she'd been waiting to see if someone would push back. She connected me with her friend, a labor rights attorney who specialized in ADA violations and workplace retaliation. We had a phone call. I explained everything, sent her copies of my binder. She called me back the next day and said, This is the most detailed documentation I've seen in 5 years. You have them nailed, but I didn't file right away. I waited, because more people were cracking. HR was under internal audit. Vanessa had gone quiet. Rumor was she'd been told to lawyer up. Meanwhile, corporate had sent in a consultant named Lyle. Lyle was tall, bald, and always sweating. He said he was here to listen. But every time someone opened up, he just nodded and said, Thanks for sharing. But I noticed something strange. Lyle kept asking people about me. He'd pull them aside, ask about my attitude, my schedule, my work habits. He even emailed IT asking for access to my calendar and Slack records. I only knew because Rob from IT texted me a screenshot. They were preparing something. That's when I filed the claim. Hostile work environment. Retaliation. ADA noncompliance. Discrimination. Wrongful threat of termination. I didn't tell anyone at work. I just let it sit. And waited. 2 weeks later, the first sign hit. I was randomly selected for a performance improvement plan, a PIP. Classic move. They gave me 30 days to show measurable improvement or face further action. I smiled, signed the PP, and handed them a copy of my claim. Now it was their turn to sweat. After I handed them a copy of the legal claim, the office atmosphere turned cold and quiet. My manager stopped talking to me directly. She'd pass messages through Slack or email, never face-to-face. Lyle, the consultant, stopped hovering. HR went radio silent. No meetings. No follow-ups. Nothing. People started treating me like I had a virus. I expected it. The PP deadline came and went. I met every requirement, logged every hour, documented every single task. They couldn't touch me without risking more damage. Then came the first real consequence. Vanessa was officially terminated. They didn't announce it. She just disappeared from the system. Her name was removed from the HR directory. Someone else took over her office without a word. But I found out what really happened. A woman from corporate, Amy, someone I'd never met before, requested a private call with me. She said she was now overseeing the legal side of the complaints and wanted to make sure my voice was being heard. I told her everything. She listened. Then she told me something I didn't know. There are 7 open complaints against Vanessa. 2 involve ADA violations. 1 involves medical record confidentiality. You were the 4th, but yours was the most detailed. You started a domino effect. Then she paused and added, She's being investigated at the state level. We've also notified the EOC. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was a bomb going off through the entire company. Within a month, 3 more people left voluntarily, Tom, Jasmine, and Rob. They'd all reached their limits. Tom told me over coffee that he had been on anxiety meds for over a year and never told anyone. Jasmine had been in therapy for burnout. Rob admitted he cried in his car during lunch breaks twice a week. You cracked it open, Rob told me. We just followed the light. It felt good to hear. But I wasn't finished. I hired the lawyer full-time. We sent a demand letter. The company panicked. They offered a settlement before it reached court. I didn't say yes right away. My lawyer advised me to counter, and we did, with terms. I wanted a full payout of unused sick leave and vacation. I wanted my personnel file wiped of the PP. I wanted a letter of reference. But more than that, I wanted a statement of apology. Not public, but written and signed. It took 2 months, but I got it. Signed by the VP of HR and a legal rep, the letter acknowledged a failure to accommodate mental health conditions in accordance with the law, and an inappropriate handling of internal wellness concerns by local HR leadership. That letter now sits in a folder in my home office. I left the company a week later. No cake. No goodbye email. I just turned in my badge and walked out. I left the cot folded behind the printer. Someone told me it stayed there for months. 3 months after I left, I got a LinkedIn message from someone in my old department. Hey, just FYI, Rebecca's been demoted. She's now handling admin-level project work. Not managing anyone. She looks like she hasn't slept in weeks. She earned that. I found out later she was going through a divorce. Her husband left her after seeing how she treated her employees online. Apparently, someone posted screenshots of her messages in a Reddit thread about toxic workplaces, and it went viral. Her teenage daughter found it. That part made me pause. I didn't feel great about that. Kids shouldn't be dragged into adult messes. But part of me also felt like, if you're going to burn people down, you don't get to hide from the smoke. As for Vanessa, she lost her SHRM certification. I heard she tried to apply at a healthcare company in Kansas City, but someone emailed them a copy of the EEOC filing and her internal write-ups from the state's investigation. She hasn't worked in HR since. I still get migraines. But now I work from home, part-time, consulting for a nonprofit that actually cares about people. They let me take time when I need it. They pay fairly. They treat me like a human being. Sometimes people ask me, was it worth it? All the effort, the stress, the retaliation. Yeah, it was worth it. Because no one else had to lay next to a printer in a cot just to be believed. And if someone ever tries to tell me again that mental health doesn't count unless you're bleeding, I'll hand them a bucket.